Starting again. Stay. Stay. Stay in your lane. You keep that 360 or 350. Yeah, that's alright. 370, 380 is alright. People to come back in and tell me how bad it is. The drop frames are climbing a little high. The drop frames percentage, oh, it's come back down. No. Don't go down there. Fine so far. Okay. Alright then. Well, and the drop frames are rising concerningly quickly. Usually it gets to about 50% and then stops, but it's still going. Up. Well, let me know when it starts buffering, but yes, so the point is that who would trust a technology? Who would trust a technology? So what was it? Yes. So so the Palantirs. So Des was telling me about you've got this concept of Palantirs and the Anor Stone in particular as being this like squirreled away thing that's never really discussed or talked about and is never really used, and people keep it, and even if people know that it exists, it's never like particularly it's very much a mystery that's never used and all that. However, apparently in various things like the Unfinished Tales and oh hello Kaz, I did Jamie. Blah. I will get over the Cal Kaz thing one day. It's not today, but it will happen one day. And I forgot to say hello to Hannah Beck. Very good to have you in as well. But yes, so in actual fact, not to start with, the stewards were actually the ones who were meant to use the Palantir in the first place. They were the ones who were meant to use the Palantirs in the first place. They have like a built-in system, a kind of an institution around using the Palantirs themselves and how it works. So it's very clear how it works is that the stewards have these works, these written down explanations and basically instruction manuals of how to use the Palantir, which they pass from father to son. So only the steward or his son is allowed to use it and look at it, which means the Boromir's probably at least thought about trying to or has tried to use the Palantir at one point, but Denethor definitely has. And the thing is that obviously Denethor had this was something that was it's not a wild thing that happened. He was using the Palantir because it's completely his legitimate right. There's literally a quote. Des, get the quote. There's a quote that Tolkien says where it's literally like, Denethor had every right to use the Palantir. It's like he had every right to use it. It was his by right, and that's so fucking cool. It's like a cultural thing that is passed down through the entire Steward family. They're like I get really crazy about the idea of the Stewards being a whole like they're being this like huge. It's a huge family. It must be by now a really large family of people who all have this kind of like unique culture to them. Like it's like they have a kind of an internally developed, and over many years of service, this internally developed concept of them being this serving family who has this responsibility that they have, and they have all of these other things that this culture that they've crafted over literally thousands of years, and it's so cool. And but yes, the Palantirs are theirs. The Palantirs are for even during when the kings were around, the Palantirs were really for the steward's use, because he was the Hello, honeybee. I'm glad to have you in. I'm still very sorry that you have that you're missing midnight mass, but I'm glad you are. I'm glad you're in here, and I hope this is a good consolation prize, because yes, Des, yes, get the yes, Des, get the quote, because we all blame Aragorn, but but the fact that the stewards have always been using it, and so the idea is that even though by the time Sauron came back, yes, stewards used the Palantirs less because it was dangerous, and the fact that it was dangerous was, you know, known to them. But there were times when they definitely did use it, or at least, and at the very, very least, every single steward for the whole line of the stewards have known how to use the Palantirs, have been taught by their dads how to use the Palantirs, which is so fucking cool, and I'm so hyped about it, and weird as we're going off, and I'm glad you're all excited, because I'm excited too. I've been having a very Palantir flavored week this week. I really haven't been thinking about Christmas. I've been thinking about the fact that wait, what? No, you didn't. What do you mean? What do you mean, Des? Des, what do you mean? That's how they talked about Arvedui. Yes, Stuart's standing monologue. You might have missed this part, but we're talking about is the fact that textually, Tolkien based quote from Tolkien says that the Palantirs were for the stewards' use. That's what they were for. The stewards had them all. It was always theirs, and it's so cool. The stewards kept a scroll with Arnor? Wait. Wait, you mean the stewards of Arnor? Were there stewards in Arnor? Was that a thing that they did? Those poor men. Those poor fellows. Can you imagine trying to steward the kings of Arnor? Good God. And then they all split? Like what? Like can you imagine the stewards of Arnor when those three brothers were like, no, actually I think we're all kings. I think we're all kings now. And there was one steward who was like, you know, getting ready to kind of figure it all out, and he was like picking around all of his papers, like, oh well, I'm sad about the king dying, but I'm ready to send one of my other sons. I'm ready to send one of my other sons. But and then he turns around and there are three kings at once, or three people who assume that they are king, and they're like, steward me. And he's like, well, but which? No, this guy is definitely the one in line. And the other two are like, no, he's a bad king. We don't like it. But come and be our steward. And so, what, did they have to split up the family? Did all three kings choose one from? Was it the same thing? Was it like a family where they chose dudes from it, or did they or did they never got there? I guess they never got there. Actually, that makes sense. They probably never ever got there, and in fact, that would make sense because that's if you never got like maybe that's probably quite a big reason as to why Gondor has managed to stay with itself. Okay, so wait. So oh, I see. Okay, that was in answer to Hannebeck. But so every Palantir had a specially appointed steward type office. That's cool as hell. That's cool as hell. Wait, no, hang on a second. Are you telling me that the fucking You telling me that the kind of the tribunal for whether or not Arvedui should have been king of Gondor as well as Arnor happened over Zoom? Over Palantir Zoom? Is that what you're saying to me, Des? They fucking they had to fucking it was a Zoom call. Oh my god, Arvedui was fired as king over Zoom. Arvedui was fired as king of... That's great. That's the great... I love that so much. Palantir Zoom call. Oh, that's good. That's good. I love that a lot. I love that a very big amount that that's the case. Oh, I'm very into that. No. And then Erna got hired as king over Zoom, I'm assuming, as well. Which is also bad. But also, actually, now I think about it, okay, so if the stewards are the ones who are operating this thing, then does that mean that Pelander was discussing Arvedui's firing with Arvedui's steward? So Arvedui was like sitting over him, trying to figure out what was going on, and just by looking at his face and like, did Arvedui get the answer that he wasn't king from a second hand from his steward who was looking into a ball? Oh, that's good. No, it's not open to interpretation. That's definitely what happened. I won't accept any other form of events, actually. No other form of events I will accept other than Arvedui, like, pacing, I guess, the Weathertop pacing Amansul's tower, as his steward is just, like, frowning at this ball, and every now and then he asks him questions, and then Arvedui's arguing, and Furiel's in the background just like, oh god, I can't even believe we're doing this, and guess no wonder he immediately leaves, and then goes and gets killed. Oh, that's really funny. That's really funny. Okay. Alright. Yes, so I'm still waiting for this quote, Des. I need this quote where Tolkien says that the stewards are the ones who, what was it? It was like the stewards have a right to the Palantir. They have a right to the stone, or they have, or it was their office, or something along those lines. There was a quote that you sent me quite recently. I'm getting too excited. Hang on, says Des. I love this. It's great that we have a chat now, so that the quotes can be immortalized. I don't have to remember them. Yes. Exactly, Hannibal. This poor guy had to turn around to Arvedui, who is a man who literally just essentially lost his entire kingdom by himself anyway, and who is both begging for Gondor's help whilst also demanding to be its king at the same time. And then this poor steward has to turn around to this dude and be like, "No, my king, not this one. This one isn't going." They say this one isn't going to fly. And then that must have been when Erna when Erna sent over his message, his like conciliatory message of I still respect Arnor greatly, and we really want to keep working together. It's very like the most recent, because recently if you all don't know, recently the UK decided that they are not, in fact, going to go out of the EU without a deal. which we're all very relieved about. It was the best Christmas present Boris Johnson could have gotten any of us. But the speech that the woman, the negotiator for the EU gave after that was so funny. It was like, we respect that. I think that polite part was buffered or like lost. I'm not sure what you mean, but I can't even remember saying polite. I'm very, very hyper right now. Yes, that was it! Des says, Des has found the quote. The quote is, "The authority to use, or again to depute the use of the stones was lawfully transmitted in their," and then cut off, "in their line, and belonged therefore fully to Denethor." Yes! Yes! Fully to Denethor! Fully! I love that word, fully. It's a great word. I love it all. I love that quote. It's wonderful. Anyway, having gotten through that, let's get to our reading, and we will switch over now. The as I said on the chat, the Lord of the Rings Online does not have the Emyn Muil. There are no rocks. It's not rocky enough anywhere for me to do a good walking video of the Emyn Muil, and we won't get to the Dead Marshes for quite a bit. So I asked Discord whether they would prefer me to just skip to the Dead Marshes, which I do have a video for, or if they would like me to do a walking video of, considering it is Christmas Eve, a walking video of the Yule-based area that Lord of the Rings Online has, and that was what was chosen. So we have that now. We have that now. It is very white, so I'm not entirely sure how well the chat will show up. But this is what we are going to have whilst Pippin is making his bad decisions, and whilst Frodo and Sam are running around the Hannebeck says, "I meant the reconciliation thing when the Gondorian king was trying to smooth it over. It was lost to a bad connection." I don't think it was, because I like stopped myself from even going that, like I literally broke off mid-sentence to talk about something completely different in that bit. Oh, wait. Yeah. Yeah. Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. I'm so sorry, Rakgloss. Gollum comes later, but yes, you're right. Gollum was also there in this wintry wonderland, apparently. So it didn't get lost to a bad connection. It was just my ADHD was so dramatic, did such a dramatic right turn that you thought I'd cut out, which is very funny. But it is lovely, isn't it? There are snow swans, and there's abject poverty somewhere. You'll get to the abject poverty. There's a goat. There's a lot of good stuff in Frostbluff, which is where this is. Okay, so let's get to Pippin's bad decisions, and finally start rereading this book after 2 months. So the last we left off, Merry was being annoyed because Pippin wouldn't let him sleep, because Pippin was a little bit obsessed about the Palantir. And so Merry had told Pippin to fucking go to sleep. Leave me alone. Oh, I am so delighted by that, Honeybee. I'm really, really glad, because I hate the idea of you being so miserable alone in your room. I absolutely hate that, and I'm very glad you're here with us, and get to do that with us. You see nothing but pixels? Even the chat in the screen is pixelated. Oh dear, that's not good. I'm afraid there's nothing I can do about that. So long as I'm still heard, I'm afraid I'm going to keep going. That's a weird new That's never happened before. I think you can change your resolution somewhere, but well, no, not anymore because I restarted the stream. But yes, the main point is I'm very, very glad that Honeybee is here with us all, rather than being alone in her room. I'm very delighted to have you. You've got to stop saying cool rad shit about Denethor so I can start reading the book. But yeah, Deputy Pippin would have been a great user of the Palantir. Right. So we end off with Merry saying goodnight. Pippin said no more. He lay still now, but sleep remained far away, and it was not encouraged by the sound of Merry breathing softly, asleep in a few minutes after saying goodnight. The thought of the dark globe seemed to grow stronger as all grew quiet. Pippin felt again its weight in his hands, and saw again the mysterious red depths into which he had looked for a moment. He tossed and turned, and tried to think of something else. At last he could stand it no longer. He got up and looked around. It was chilly, and he wrapped his cloak about him. The moon was shining cold and white down into the dell, and the shadows of the bushes were black. All about him lay sleeping figures. The 2 guards were not in view. They were up on the hill, perhaps, or hidden in the bracken. Driven by some impulse that he did not understand, Pippin walked softly to where Gandalf lay. He looked down at him. The wizard seemed asleep, but with lids not fully closed. There was a glitter of eyes under his long lashes. Pippin stepped back hastily, but Gandalf made no sign, and drawn forward once more, half against his will, the hobbit crept up again from behind the wizard's head. He was rolled in a blanket, with his cloak spread over the top, and close beside him, between his right side and his bent arm, there was a hummock, something round wrapped in dark cloth. His hand seemed only just to have slipped off it to the ground. Hardly breathing, Pippin crept nearer, foot by foot, and at last he knelt down. It's very strange. It's very creepy that you know what? It's even creepier that Gandalf is hugging the Palantir in his sleep. Like that's quite. I think that's quite creepy. Actually, I think that's a bit strange. It's a bit strange that that's the case. I'm sure. I feel like Gandalf. I feel like maybe he didn't have to do that. I feel like Pippin would have found it harder to find if he hadn't like been cuddling it while he was sleeping. But yeah, he is rolled in a little blanket. He's nice. No, I don't think so. I don't think it's fine. I'm not happy with it. I'm not content with hugging the Palantir. Okay. Hardly breathing, Pippin crept nearer, foot by foot. At last he knelt down. Then he put his hands out stealthily and slowly lifted the lump up. It did not seem quite so heavy as he had expected. Only some bundle of oddments, perhaps, after all, he thought to himself. He thought, with a strange sense of relief. But he did not put the bundle down again. He stood for a moment, clasping it. Then an idea came into his mind. He tiptoed away, found a large stone, and came back. Quickly now he drew off the cloth, wrapped the stone in it, and kneeling down, laid it back in the wizard's hand. Then, at last, he looked at the thing that he had uncovered. There it was, a smooth globe of crystal, now dark and dead, lying bare before his knees. Pippin lifted it, covered it hurriedly in his own cloak, and half turned to go back to his bed. At that moment Gandalf moved in his sleep, and muttered some words. They seemed to be in a strange tongue. His hand groped out and clasped the rat stone. Then he sighed and did not move again. I'm sorry. It's weird. It's weird. It's weird and strange. It's exactly. Hannebeck is exactly right. That is exactly what it looks like. It's like Sauron is his ex, and he's like hugging the phone, and it's very strange. It's very strange. He's muttering in his sleep, and he's distressed, and then he leans over and he grabs the rock, and he's like, "Oh, that's fine then." That's odd. That's odd and strange. I am wondering if he was speaking Valerian. Valarian? Muttering Saruman's name. No, shut up. No. Okay. What she said? No. Oh dear. You idiotic fool. You idiotic fool, Pippin muttered to himself. You're going to get yourself into frightful trouble. Put it back, quick. But he found now that his knees quaked, and he did not dare to go near enough to the wizard to reach the bundle. I'll never get it back now without waking him, he thought. Not till I'm a bit calmer, so I may as well have a look first. Not just here, though. He stole away and sat down on a green hillock not far from his bed. The moon looked in over the edge of the dell. It's a nice image. Tilion just like peeking over like, oh, Hobbit's about to do something dumb. Pippin sat with his knees drawn up and the ball between them. He bent low over it, looking like a greedy child stooping over a bowl of food, in a corner away from the others. He drew his cloak aside and gazed at it. The air seemed still and tense about him. At first the globe was dark, black as jet, with the moonlight gleaming on its surface. Then there came a faint glow and stir in the heart of it, and it held his eyes, so that now he could not look away. Soon all the inside seemed on fire. The ball was spinning, all the lights within were revolving. Suddenly the lights went out. He gave a gasp and struggled, but he remained bent, clasping the ball with both hands. Closer and closer he bent, and then became rigid. His lips moved soundlessly for a while. Then, with a strangled cry, he fell back and lay still. The cry was piercing. The guards leapt down from the banks. All the camp was soon astir. "So, this is the thief," said Gandalf. Hastily he cast his cloak over the globe where it lay. "But you, Pippin, this is a grievous turn to things." He knelt by Pippin's body. The hobbit was lying on his back, rigid, with unseeing eyes staring up at the sky. "The devilry! What mischief has he done to himself and to all of us?" The wizard's face was drawn and haggard. He took Pippin's hand and bent over his face, listening for his breath. Then he laid his hands on his brow. The hobbit shuddered, his eyes closed. He cried out and sat up, staring in bewilderment at all the faces around him, pale in the moonlight. "It is not for you, Saruman!" he cried in a shrill, toneless voice, shrinking away from Gandalf. "I will send for it at once. Do you understand? Say just that." Then he struggled to get up and escape, but Gandalf held him gently and firmly. "Peregrine Took," he said. "Come back." The hobbit relaxed and fell back, clinging to the wizard's hand. "Gandalf," he cried. "Gandalf, forgive me." "Forgive you?" said the wizard. "Tell me first what you have done." I took the ball and looked at it," stammered Pippin, "and I saw things that frightened me, and I wanted to go away, but I couldn't. And then he came, and he questioned me, and he looked at me, and that is all I remember." "That won't do," said Gandalf sternly. "What did you see, and what did you say?" Pippin shut his eyes and shivered, but said nothing. They all stared at him in silence, except Merry, who turned away. Oh, but Gandalf's face was still hard. "Speak," he said. In a low, hesitating voice, Pippin began again, and slowly his words grew clearer and stronger. "I saw a dark sky and tall battlements," he said, "and tiny stars. It seemed very far away and long ago, yet hard and clear. Then the stars went in and out. They were cut off by things with wings, very big, I think, really, but in the glass they looked like bats, wheeling around the tower. I thought there were 9 of them. One began to fly straight towards me, getting bigger and bigger. It had a horrible... No, I can't say... I tried to get away because I thought it would fly out, but then it had covered all the globe. It disappeared. Then he came. He did not speak so that I could hear words. He just looked, and I understood. 'So you have come back? Why have you neglected to report for so long?' I did not answer. He said, 'Who are you?' I still did not answer, but it hurt me horribly, and he pressed me, so I said, 'A hobbit.' Then he suddenly seemed to see me, and he laughed at me. It was cruel. It was like being stabbed with knives. I struggled, but then he said, 'Wait a moment. We shall meet again soon. Tell Saruman that his dainty is not for him. I will send for it at once. Do you understand? Just say that.' Then he gloated over me. I felt I was falling to pieces. No, I can't say any more. I don't remember anything else.
Look at me, said Gandalf. Pippin looked up straight into his eyes. The wizard held his gaze for a moment in silence. Then his face grew gentler, and the shadow of a smile appeared. He laid his hand softly on Pippin's head. All right, he said. Say no more. You have taken no harm. There is no lie in your eyes, as I feared. But he did not speak long with you. A fool, but an honest fool, you remain, Peregrine Took. Wiser ones might have done worse in such a pass. But mark this, you have been saved, and all your friends too, mainly by good fortune, as it is called. You cannot count on it a second time. If he had questioned you then and there, almost certainly you would have told all that you know, to the ruin of us all. But he was too eager, and did not want information only. He wanted you, quickly, so that he could deal with you in the Dark Tower slowly. Don't shudder. If you will meddle in the affairs of wizards, you must be prepared to think of such things. But come, I forgive you. Be comforted. Things have not turned out as evilly as they might.
He lifted Pippin gently, and carried him back to his bed. Merry followed, and sat down beside him.
Lie there, and rest, if you can, Pippin, said Gandalf. Trust me. If you feel an itch in your palms again, tell me of it. Such things can be cured. But anyway, my dear hobbit, don't put a lump of rock under my elbow again. Now I will leave you two together for a while.
What have people been saying? Oh god, terrible things! Terrible things that people have been saying! No! No, these are all terrible things that you're all saying! No! Is there a salve? Yes, it is. Well, an itch in your palms does feel like something. It also sounds like something else. It also sounds like something else. Yes, I agree. I think Gandalf handled that pretty okay. Other than the fact that he was like, if you'll meddle in the affairs of wizards, blah 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 blah, when explicitly it says that Pippin couldn't stop himself. Like, it's not like he wanted to. He just literally touched something that had been touched by Sauron a lot. And like like, it's not like he could try to stop himself. Like, he didn't know. He had no idea. Again, Gandalf did not actually tell him anything, even though he did know that that was a thing that could happen. I guess, apparently. Because there's, I don't know, a cream or whatever for palms that itch for Palantirs. But yeah. Yeah, other than that part, I actually think he was quite nice. I think he was quite nice. I think that was not the worst thing that Gandalf has ever done, at the very least. I'll concede that one thing. He did quite a good job. With that, Gandalf returned to the others, who were still standing by the Orthanc stone in troubled thought. Peril comes in the night when we least expect it, he said. We have had a narrow escape. Oh god, what was Aragorn's voice? How is the hobbit, Pippin? Asked Aragorn. I think all will be well now, answered Gandalf. He was not held long, and hobbits have an amazing power of recovery. The memory, or the horror of it, will probably fade quickly. Too quickly, perhaps. Will you, Aragorn, take the Orthanc stone and guard it? It is a dangerous charge. Dangerous indeed, but not to all, said Aragorn. There is one who may claim it by right, for this assuredly is the Palantir of Orthanc from the treasury of Elendil, set here by the kings of Gondor. Now my hour draws near. I will take it. But we all know that it's not his. It's his steward's, but I will carry on. Again, the way that Aragorn speaks, he always speaks as though he's monologuing. He's internal monologuing. He's internal monologuing his own like his own autobiography is what Aragorn always sounds like. He's always narrating his own autobiography, but out loud to everybody. It's very funny. It's very funny to me. Gandalf looked at Aragorn, and then, to the surprise of the others, he lifted the covered stone and bowed as he presented it. "Receive it, Lord," he said, "in earnest of other things that shall be given back. But if I may counsel you in the use of your own, do not use it yet. Be wary." "When have I been hasty or unwary, who have waited and prepared for so many long years?" said Aragorn. "Never yet, never yet. Do not then stumble at the end of the road," answered Gandalf. "But at least keep this thing secret, you and all others that stand here. The hobbit Peregrine, above all, should not know where it is bestowed. The evil fit may come on him again, for alas, he has handled it and looked in it, and as should never have happened. He ought never to have touched it in Isengard, and there I should have been quicker. But my mind was bent on Saruman, and I did not at once guess the nature of the stone. Then I was weary, and as I lay pondering it, sleep overcame me. Now I know." Oh, okay. So he was thinking about his boyfriend, is the thing. If we're following this logic that we've created in the chat, he was thinking about his boyfriend. Death says, "Now to be fair, Tolkien..." I'm still gonna read out people probably. "Now to be fair, Tolkien does say Aragorn's right exists above any other claim, but he's real bad at it." Yes. I will address. I did get two very funny asks from the Aragorn loving lesbian about the, I will admit, somewhat mean meme that I created. Still very funny. I maintain a very funny meme, but it is mixing book and film canon, because I don't think Aragorn ever actually faints because he's holding the Palantir. I think he's kind of chill. He's all right with it. No, Raggles, I'm not. It's chat. I'm talking about chat. I don't believe chat. I disagree with this. Anyway, I disagree with this. Gandalf and Saruman were barely even friends, as far as I could tell. They were barely even friends. But the fact that he ages overnight, that's true. Actually, he does do that. That's actually very true. He does do that. Whereas Denethor does age over the course of 30 years. So. It's good. No fighting in chat. Although, if I were to place myself, I would say that I am on Raklos's side. Gollum is better than. No, stop it! No, stop it! Stop this! That definitely exists. First. No, it already exists. Nobody needs to go and look for it. It already exists, and we're moving on. I'm now firmly on Raklos's side. This. We're moving on. I'm sorry I even mentioned it. My point was that I love it when Gandalf, again, we always have to go through this process of Gandalf, whenever he makes a mistake, having to immediately tell everybody why he made this mistake, and essentially relieve himself of any guilt immediately. Nobody can think that he's doing badly. and you all have to be sympathetic with me, and it might have been my fault that that Pippin nearly got tortured, or did get tortured, by by Sauron, but I tried my best, and so you can't blame me. No, well, that's true. Yeah, that is true. Now, admittedly, Curfin is also he definitely did also kill children. Like, we have explicit textual based knowledge that he at least was complicit in the killing of children. But who cares? We're moving on. No fighting. No fighting about baby eaters. Yes. So Gandalf says, "Now I know." "Yes, there can be no doubt," said Aragorn. "At last we know the link between Isengard and Mordor, and how it worked. Much is explained." "Strange powers have our enemies, and strange weaknesses," said Theoden. "But it has been long said, oft evil will shall evil mar." "That many times is seen," said Gandalf. "But at this time we have been strangely fortunate. Maybe I have been saved by this hobbit from a grave blunder. I had considered whether or not to probe this stone myself, to find its uses. Had I done so, I would have been revealed to him myself. I am not ready for such a trial, if indeed I shall ever be so. But even if I found the power to withdraw myself, it would be disastrous for him to see me. Yet, until the hour comes when secrecy will no longer avail." "That hour is come now, I think," said Aragorn. "Not yet," said Gandalf. "There remains a short while of doubt which we must use. The enemy, it is clear, thought that the stone was in Orthanc. Why should he not? And that, therefore, the hobbit was captive there, driven to look in the glass for his moment by Saruman. That dark mind will be filled now with the voice and face of the hobbit, and with expectation. It may take some time before he learns his error. We must snatch that time. We have been too leisurely." We've been too leisurely. We took too long. The battle at Helm's Deep was just a detour. It was a holiday. We'll need to get back to serious work now. "We must move. The neighborhood of Isengard is no place to linger in. I will ride now ahead at once with Peregrine Took. It will be better for him than lying in the dark while others sleep." "I will keep Eomer and 10 riders," said the king. "They shall ride with me at early day. The rest may go with Aragorn, and ride as soon as they have a mind." "As you will," said Gandalf, "but make all the speed you may to the cover of the hills, to Helm's Deep." At that moment a shadow fell over them. The bright moonlight seemed to be suddenly cut off. Several of the riders cried out, and crouched, holding their arms above their heads as if to ward off a blow from above. A blind fear, and a deadly cold fell on them. Cowering they looked up. A vast winged shape passed over the moon like a black cloud. It wheeled and went north, flying at speed greater than any wind of Middle-earth. The stars fainted before it. It was gone. They stood up, rigid as stones. Gandalf was gazing up, his arms out and downwards, stiff, his hands clenched. "Nazgul," he cried, "the messenger of Mordor! The storm is coming! The Nazgul have crossed the river! Ride! Ride! Wait not for the dawn! Let not the swift wait for the slow! Ride!" He sprang away, calling Shadowfax as he ran. Aragorn followed him. Going to Pippin, Gandalf picked him up in his arms. "You shall come with me this time," he said. "Shadowfax shall show you his paces." Then he ran to the place where he had slept. Shadowfax stood there already, slinging the small bag, which was all his luggage, across his shoulders. The wizard leapt upon the horse's back. Aragorn lifted Pippin and set him in Gandalf's arms, wrapped him in a cloak and blanket. "Farewell, follow fast!" cried Gandalf. "Away, Shadowfax!" The great horse tossed his head, his flowing tail flicked in the moonlight, then he leapt forward, spurning the earth, and was gone like the north wind from the mountains.
A beautiful, restful night, said Mary to Aragorn. Some folk have wonderful luck. He did not want to sleep, and he wanted to ride with Gandalf, and there he goes! Instead of being turned into a stone himself, to stand here forever as a warning. If you had been the first to lift the Orthanc stone, not he, how would it be now? Said Aragorn. You might have done worse, who can say? But now it is your luck to come with me, I fear, at once. Go and get ready, and bring everything that Pippin left behind. Make haste. Over the plains, Shadowfax was flying, needing no urging and no guidance. Less than an hour had passed, and they had reached the fords of Isen and crossed them. The mound of the riders and its cold spears lay grey behind them. Oh, bugger it all. Damn it. Sorry, we're getting to the song, and I had memorized it, but now it's been 46 minutes since I heard it. I memorized it in 10 minutes before this stream. God damn it. What was it? Fuck. Well, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna read to just this little bit, and then we're gonna have a brief break so that I can go and remember it, and then I'll come back. And then we'll do it like that. Okay, so Pippin was recovering. He was warm, but the wind in his face was keen and refreshing. He was with Gandalf. The horror of the stone and of the hideous shadow of the moon was fading. Things left behind in the mists of the mountains, or in a passing dream. He drew a deep breath. I did not know you rode bareback, Gandalf, he said. You haven't a saddle or a bridle. I do not ride elf-fashion, except on Shadowfax, said Gandalf. But Shadowfax will have no harness. You do not ride Shadowfax. He is willing to carry you or not. If he is willing, that is enough. It is then his business to see that you remain on his back, unless you jump off into the air. How fast is he going? Asked Pippin. Fast by the wind, but very smooth, and how light his footfalls are. He is running now as fast as the swiftest horse could gallop, answered Gandalf. But that is not fast for him. The land is rising a little here, and he is more broken than it was beyond, and it is more broken than it was beyond the river. But see how the white mountains are drawing near under the stars. Yonder are the Thrihirni mountain peaks. We'll go with that. Like black spears. It will not be long before we reach the branching roads and come to the Deeping Coombe, where the battle was fought 2 nights ago. Right, we're going to pause briefly there, and I'm going to very quickly go and have a look to remember this song, because it was good. So I'll just put up the break stuff, which is courtesy of Peaches. It's a very good break. It's a very good breaking for Levin's image. And I'm going to mute my mic, and then I will be back in like a hot second.
Alright, we got it. We're back. We figured it out. I remembered it, and we can take off the break. We're back. Okay. I'm very glad to see that we've reached a reconciliation while I was away. Anyway, so, Pippin was silent again for a while. He heard Gandalf singing softly to himself, murmuring brief snatches of rhyme in many tongues as the miles ran under them. At last, the wizard passed into a song of which the hobbit caught the words. A few lines came clear to his ears through the rushing of the wind. Tall ships and tall kings, 3 times 3. What brought they from? Oh dear, maybe I should do this in my own voice. Tall ships and tall kings, 3 times 3. What brought they from the founder land? Over the flowing sea, 7 stars and 7 stones, and 1 white tree. And that's it. That's all this whole hullabaloo was about. Was just that. I might sing it again in a Gandalf's voice to try and make it more worthwhile, but I needed to know. Let me see if I can do it properly in Gandalf's voice. Oh, good God. Everything's fine. Nothing happened. Everything's okay. I didn't knock over my table at all. Everything's fine. Tall ships and tall kings, 3 times 3. What brought they from the foundered land? Over the flowing sea, 7 stars and 7 stones, and oof, no, I can't. I'm too low. I'm not low enough. And 1 white tree. There you go. Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you, Honeybee. I sung it more beautifully a little bit earlier, and I got a bit of something in my throat. But thank you very, very much. Oh no, Honeyback, I'm so sorry. I'll sing it one more time if you want me to. While you're watching me, do the Christmas skirmish. The Yule skirmish in Lord of the Rings Online. No, let's keep going. What are you saying, Gandalf? Asked Pippin. I was running over some of the rhymes of lore in my mind, answered the wizard. Hobbits, I suppose, have forgotten them, even those that they ever knew. No, not at all, said Pippin. And we have many of our own, which wouldn't interest you, perhaps, but I have never heard this one. What is it about, the 7 stars and 7 stones? About the Palantiri of the kings of old, said Gandalf. And what are they? The name meant that which looks far away. The Orthanc stone was one. Then it was not made, Pippin hesitated, by the enemy? No, said Gandalf, not by Saruman. It is beyond his art, and beyond Sauron's too. The Palantiri come from beyond Westerness, from Eldamar. The Noldor made them. Fëanor himself, maybe, wrought them in days so long ago that the time cannot be measured in years. But there is nothing that Sauron cannot turn to evil uses. Alas for Saruman, it was his downfall, as I now perceive. Perilous to us all are the devices of an art deeper than we possess ourselves. Yet he must bear the blame. Fool, to keep it secret for his own profit. No word did he ever speak of it to any of the council. We had not yet given thought to the fate of the Palantiri of Gondor in its ruinous wars. By men they were almost forgotten. Even in Gondor they were a secret known only to a few. In Arnor they were remembered only in rhyme of lore, but among the Dunedain. See? He's wrong. Gandalf's wrong here. That's not true. some of this isn't true. So firstly, the Palantir was Saruman's downfall. It wasn't. Saruman only recently, like not moments, like very very recently did Saruman touch the stone for the first time, apparently. Like in the annals, as far as I can tell, Saruman didn't actually touch the Orthanc stone or try to look into it until very late on, after he'd been searching for the ring. He's wrong. Saruman actually had been he'd been meaning to go evil all this time. This whole time he'd been meaning to go evil. It's the reason that the Palantir, touching the Palantir, was the point where he got his evil purposes twisted towards Sauron's purposes. But it wasn't the cause of him being evil. He was evil first. He was bad first, and then he became Sauron's lackey because he looked into the Orthanc stone. If he hadn't looked into the Orthanc stone, he would have been just another bad dude that we had to deal with. So once again we come back. Thank you so much, Des. Once again we come back to how fundamentally misguided it is to continually take Gandalf's word as read truth. You cannot ever, at any point, in any of the characters, believe 100% what they are saying. The actions, is more what you have to look at. Ragos, well, but isn't he more aware? He's not aware that he's evil. He's aware that he's. Isn't he aware? He's aware that he's being a bit of a jerk. I feel like I wasn't. You're all coming to my favorite part of the Yule of the Yule the Yule skirmish, which is this wonderful dancing snowman, which is my favorite thing. I love him so much. He's great. He's my favorite thing. He's just a good boy, and then you come and you disturb him, and he's like, well, I guess you throw hands now. Going to come and fuck you up. Anyway, the point is that Gandalf knew he was mean. I don't think Gandalf knew that Saruman was going full on evil. Or alternatively, Saruman deciding that he wanted the ring and all of that kind of stuff, and that he was kind of going against the council, wasn't considered evil to Gandalf. Gandalf did not consider that evil. He considered going to Sauron's purposes as evil, and because that was against Eru's plan, but not necessarily like Saruman himself just being a bastard is fine, apparently, maybe, to Gandalf. We'll figure it out later. Gandalf's wrong at this point. It's not. I love being able to stop the book and pause and say, no, categorically, Gandalf is not right at this point. He's not. This isn't true. Also, again, this bit, where, this is another, actually, sorry, we have to touch on the fact that, Des also got another really great, quote, recently about, what Gandalf's, purposes are here. The reason he dashed off so fucking quickly. His part of his purposes were, he's leaving because he needs to take Pippin to Gondor, he needs to go to... But the reason he's running so quickly to Gondor is because he's like, oh fuck, what if Denethor uses the Palantir? Oh no! I need to quick before Denethor uses the Palantir. I need to go and make sure that he's okay. I need to. Oh, there's a fight. There's a lore fight going on in the chat now. but yeah, Gandalf is worried about Denethor. He's worried about Denethor because he's worried that Denethor will use the Palantir. the it's so funny to me. It's so funny. He was worried about him. Now, but it's very funny because what he's worried about is that Denethor's going to use the Palantir when we're like, it's like, oh honey, oh Gandalf, he's been using this whole Palantir the whole time. He's been using the Palantir since he was coronated. So you're a little late, my boy. Yes, he's worried about Denethor. Yes, minds were blown. Yes, I think Ragnaros is meaning, I'm wrong about Gandalf being wrong about Sauron being... No, but the point is that Gandalf here is saying that Saruman is saying that the point I'm making here is that Gandalf is saying that Saruman in this section, Gandalf says Saruman Gandalf says Saruman was that the Palantir was Saruman's downfall. When it isn't. Again, if we're saying downfall here is Saruman becoming evil, which I think is what he's meaning, then the Palantir wasn't Saruman's downfall. It was his downfall happened ages ago. Being in Middle Earth was Saruman's downfall. Being sad, having a bad day was Saruman's downfall. Well, I mean, I don't necessarily agree that Saruman thinks. I mean, he thinks. I think maybe thinks Gandalf is beneath him. I don't know if that's true. I feel like quite a lot of what Saruman says is like posturing. He's trying to act like he's way better than everybody else. But realistically speaking, I actually think Saruman. I think Saruman is. I think Saruman actually is like. No, I'm sorry. This is the stream. I want to deal with this. Saruman does actually like Gandalf quite a lot. I think he really wanted him. Yeah, he really wanted him. Yeah, he really wanted him to come with him. He really wanted him to come and be evil with him. He genuinely was. And he was genuinely disappointed when Gandalf didn't. And he had to cover up his... It is total confusion. Okay, yeah, let's keep reading. I'm sorry. It's just very cool. I do think... anyway, okay. Yes, so they were remembered only in rhyme of lore among the Dunedain. What did the men of old use them for? Asked Pippin, delighted and astonished at getting answers to so many questions, and wondering how long it would last. To see far off, and to converse in thought with one another, said Gandalf. In that way they long guarded and united the realm of Gondor. They set up stones at Minas Anor, and at Minas Ithil, and at Orthanc in the ring of Isengard. The chief and master of these was under the Dome of Stars at Osgiliath before its ruin. The three others were far away in the north. In the house of Elrond it is told that they were at Anu Minas and Amon-Sul, and Elendil stone was on the tower hills that looked towards Mithlond in the Gulf of Lune, where the grey ships lie. Each Palantir replied to each, but all those in Gondor were ever open to the view of Osgiliath. Now it appears, as the rock of Orthanc has withstood the storms of time, so there the Palantir of that tower has remained. But alone it could do nothing, but see small images of things far off and days remote. Very useful, no doubt, that was to Saruman, yet it seems that he was not content. Further and further abroad he gazed, until he cast his gaze upon Barad-dûr. Then he was caught. Who knows where the lost stones of Arnor and Gondor now lie, buried or drowned deep? But one at least Sauron must have obtained, and mastered to his purposes. I guess that it was the Ithil stone, for he took Minas Ithil long ago, and turned it into an evil place. Minas Morgul it has become. See? Gandalf is talking like it took a long time. Like Saruman looked into the stone and was using it for a long time, and you know, was you know, looking far off, and then he looked too far or whatever. But no, at the moment that Saruman used the stone, he was caught. It says so. The moment Saruman used the stone, he was caught. As far as I'm sure that is the case. So again, Gandalf is making essentially making more of Saruman than he actually is. He was caught almost immediately. Yes, I know, it's wonderful. I love that bit. Like, aww. I like this bit of the video. I just found some people playing music and then they still said Merry Yule to us. It's very sweet.
Easy it is now to guess how quickly the roving eye of Saruman was trapped and held, and how ever since he has been persuaded from afar, and daunted when persuasion would not serve. The biter bit, the hawk under the eagle's foot, the spider in a steel web. How long, I wonder, has he been constrained to come often to his glass for inspection and instruction, and the Orthanc stone so bent towards Barad-dûr that, if any save a will of adamant now looks into it, it will bear his mind and sight swiftly thither? And how it draws one to itself! Have I not felt it? Even now my heart desires to test my will upon it, to see if I could not wrench it from him and turn it where I would, to look across the wider seas of water and of time to Tyrion the Fair, and perceive the unimaginable hand and mind of Fëanor at their work, while both the white tree and the golden were in flower. He sighed and fell silent.
I wish I'd known all this before, said Pippin. I had no notion of what I was doing.
Oh, yes, you had, said Gandalf. You knew you were behaving wrongly and foolishly, and you told yourself so, though you did not listen. I did not tell you all this before, because it is only by musing on all that has happened that I have at last understood, even as we ride together. But if I had spoken sooner, it would not have lessened your desire, nor made it easier to resist. On the contrary, know that the burned hand teaches best, after that advice about fire goes to the heart.
It does, said Pippin. If all the 7 stones were laid out before me now, I should shut my eyes and put my hands in my pockets.
Good, said Gandalf. That is what I hoped.
But I should like to know, Pippin began.
Mercy, cried Gandalf. If the giving of information is to be the cure of your inquisitiveness, I shall spend all the rest of my days in answering you. What more do you want to know?
The names of all the stars, and of all the living things, and the whole history of Middle-earth, and over heaven, and of the sundering seas, laughed Pippin. Of course, what less? But I'm not in a hurry, tonight. At the moment I was just wondering about the black shadow I heard you shout, Messenger of Mordor. What was it? What could it do at Isengard?
It was a black rider on wings, a Nazgul, said Gandalf. I could have taken you away to the Dark Tower. It could have taken you away to the Dark Tower.
Oh, but it was not coming for me, was it? Faltered Pippin. I mean, it didn't know that I had...
Of course not, said Gandalf. It is 200 leagues or more in straight flight from Barad-dûr to Orthanc, and even a Nazgul would take a few hours to fly between. But Saruman certainly looked in the stone since the Orc raid, and more of his secret thought, I do not doubt, has been read than he intended. And after that, and after what has happened tonight, another will come, I think, and swiftly. So Saruman will come to the last pinch of the vice that he has put his hand in. He has no captive to send, he has no stone to see with, and cannot answer the summons. Sauron will only believe that he is withholding the captive and refusing to use the stone. It will not help Saruman to tell the truth to the messenger, for Isengard may be ruined, yet he is still safe in Orthanc, so whether he will or no, he will appear a rebel. Yet he rejected us, so as to avoid that very thing. What he will do in such a plight, I cannot guess. He has power still, I think, while in Orthanc, to resist the 9 riders. He may try to do so. He may try to trap the Nazgul, or at least to slay the thing on which it now rides the air. In that case, let Rohan look to its horses. But I cannot tell how it will fall out, well or ill for us. It may be the counsel of the enemy will be confused or hindered by his wrath with Saruman. It may be that he will learn that I was there, and stood upon the stairs of Orthanc, with hobbits at my tail, or that an heir of Elendil lives and stood beside me, or
If Wormtongue was not deceived by the armor of Rohan, he would remember Aragorn and the title that he claimed. That is what I fear. And so we fly, not from danger, but into greater danger. Every stride of Shadowfax bears you nearer to the land of Shadow, Peregrine Took.
Pippin made no answer, but clutched his cloak, as if a sudden chill had struck him. Grey land passed under them.
See now, said Gandalf, the Westfold Dales are opening before us. Here we come back to the eastward road. The dark shadow yonder is the mouth of the Deeping Combe. That way lies Aglarond and the glittering caves. Do not ask me about them. Ask Gimli, if you meet again, and for the first time you may get an answer longer than you wish. You will not see the caves yourself, not on this journey. Soon they will be far behind.
I thought you were going to stop at Helm's Deep, said Pippin. Where are you going then?
To Minas Tirith, before the seas of war surround it.
Oh, and how far is that?
Leagues upon leagues, answered Gandalf. Thrice as far as the dwellings of King Theoden, and they are more than 100 miles east from here, as the messengers of Mordor fly. Shadowfax must run a longer road, which will prove the swifter. We shall ride now till daybreak, and that is some hours away. Even then Shadowfax must rest, in some hollow of the hills at Edorath, I hope. Sleep, if you can. You may see the first glimmer of dawn upon the golden roof of the house of Eorl, and in 2 days thence you shall see the purple shadow of Mount Mindoluin, and the walls of the Tower of Denethor white in the morning. Away now, Shadowfax. Run, Greatheart, run as you have never run before. Now we are come to the lands where you are foaled, and every stone you know. Run now. Hope is in speed.
Shadowfax tossed his head and cried aloud, as if a trumpet had summoned him to battle. Then he sprang forward. Fire flew from his feet. Night rushed over him. As he fell slowly into sleep, Pippin had a strange feeling. He and Gandalf were still as stone, seated upon a statue of a running horse, while the world rolled away beneath his feet with a great noise of wind. I think actually, in fact, the greatest ship in this book really is between Shadowfax and Gandalf. Like, there is nothing that Gandalf loves more than this fucking horse. We are on book 4, finally. We are on book 4. We've got there. It took us an hour to get through that section. I love that bit, though. That's a great bit, because it's like, the first time we get, no, don't, no, Hannibal, no, no, you're spiting me too. Just look for, it's already on AO3, like, you don't have to do this. You don't have to do this, somebody's already done it. Wait, the no wasn't to you? Was it to me? What did I do? Oh dear. There's a mutiny in my chat. What was the no about? Sorry, I'm eating chocolate. Oh, I see. No, this one I will stick with. Gandalf has never expressed more love or admiration for anything other than this goddamn horse, except perhaps Fëanor. I can't believe I'm encouraging this. I need to stop. We're gonna have one more a little bit longer break. We're gonna have a break of about 10 minutes before we get into the taming of Smeagol. So bio breaks and such. I love these two hobbits. They're like the two old men in the Muppets who are in the box. They're always telling these bad jokes to each other. It's very funny. I mean, I do want to say that you're right, Lith Hedgehog, but he definitely does love this horse so fucking much. Like, he loves this horse so goddamn much. Every single time Gandalf has a chance to talk about Shadowfax, he does. And he's always talking about him in the tenderest of tones. He does? What? Is that true? Is that canon? Is that a thing that he does?
Does he take him to the west? I did not. I didn't know that. I didn't know how. This is still. Somebody needs to get a. Somebody needs to get a quote about that so that because I didn't know that. I don't know things about Gandalf. Anyway, we're breaking for 11sies. Well, the thing is that Shadowfax definitely does talk back, though. That's incredible. That's crazy. It's crazy that that's true. Gandalf takes Shadowfax back with him. I can't believe how correct I am. I can't believe how correct I am. Anyway, yes. So we're having a break, and we'll start again in about 10 minutes. But that was a good bit. That was a good bit. Ugh. I keep saying that every now and then. I'll be like, "Wait, this book is good," and it's like, it's your favorite book, Erin. What did you think it was gonna be like? It's your favorite book. Why are you surprised that it's good? And I'm like, yeah, it's a good book. I like it so much. Okay, back in a tick. In the book, Aragorn... I'm back. In the book, Aragorn... Gandalf... Why did I say Aragorn? Gandalf rode to the Grey Havens, but what happened to his horse afterwards is unstated. However, in a letter written to a fan in 1965, Tolkien wrote, I think Shadowfax certainly went with Gandalf. Fuck. Of course he did. Of course he did. You have to recognize the moments when Tolkien is just being, like, the most 18-year-old, like, author. And with his self-inserts and his cool horses and all of that. Like really. There are just times when Tolkien just fucking likes his horses and his big eagles and shit. He gives all his favorite characters pets and stuff. Oh dear. Letters have to count for something. Letters have to count for something. Well, no, I mean, no, actually, you're right. I don't want to. I do not want to awaken the possible the danger of saying that letters can count because of all the shit, all the stuff he said in letters. Has that book come out yet? There was that book that was coming out by some dude. Des knows. There was a book coming out about like secret letters that some guy had that he was publishing into a book. And I can't remember what it was about, but no, it was like there was stuff about, like, there was a ton of stuff that was in there about various things Tolkien related. Like, no, it's not out yet. It's coming out at some time. Stop being mean to me. I don't know names or people. Oh yeah, that book. See, people know. Damn it. I don't know the guy's name, but essentially it was that someone had. Yes, it's a new. No, I don't think it's drafts. I think it was The Nature of Middle Earth. That does sound familiar, admittedly. Might have been that. It might have been the. Yeah. Yeah, it might be that one. Might be the Nature of Middle Earth. Anyway. All the Discord group know. The Carl dude. All the Discord group know that, because I think Kaz was the one. Hosteter, yes, that's it. Hosteter, or whatever. Kaz was the one who came in, who regrettably could not be with us today. But Kaz drew it to everyone's attention. And I'm assuming he didn't think that the universal reaction from especially me would be, oh god, not again. No! Leave it, let it be, leave it alone, we've got this! We've got this already, we have it, we don't need to know anything else. We don't need to know anything else about this world. We can figure it out ourselves. You'll just add more. It's definitely letters. It's like stuff that this guy had in keeping for some reason that I think either I mean the prelude to it is a little concerning, honestly, because this guy, like, he's publishing it essentially a year after Christopher Tolkien died, and the way he said it was like Chris finally gave him the right to publish these letters that he had from Tolkien or something along those lines, but like it doesn't feel like that's what happened. What it feels like is that Chris didn't want them to be published, and then he died. and then I guess somebody else decided, yeah, you can now. It seems strange. It seems odd. It seems an odd way. There might be about flora and fauna, but I'm pretty sure. Yes, I think what I've heard is that there is stuff. There's quite a lot of stuff. There's geographical stuff. So I guess Honeybee should be excited. There's quite a bit of geographical information in it, but I don't think that's all that there is. There's other stuff in it as well, I'm pretty sure. Then again, you're right. Maybe it is just the nature of Middle Earth. I would like to know if there was other flora and fauna. Maybe he's gonna fucking explain why the goddamn hell we have coffee in this universe. Why we have coffee in fantasy Devon. That would be great. Potatoes too. Why do we have coffee and potatoes in fantasy Devon? And tomatoes. God, there's just so much. Yes. Yeah, we'll get there. I love this big dog. Exactly, Honeybee. It does feel like that. It's what it feels like. Yeah. If I was to actually like what's the word? Bleh. Sleepy. If I was to actually put my hand to anything, academically speaking, in terms of Tolkien, the one thing I would do some kind of academic writing about, it would be Gandalf's mistakes and why we can't trust him. It would just be that. Like the title would be like, "I'm begging you to stop taking Gandalf at his word. I'm begging you to stop believing Gandalf's lies." Why do we assume that Gandalf is right? Yeah. It's still the funniest thing to me. It's still so funny, the idea of Gandalf being like, "Oh no! What if Denethor's going to use the Valandia? I have to get there before it happens. Quick! Get on my horse! We're gonna rush over there before Denethor before he's like tempted to use the Palantir. Quick! We need it! We need to go as fast as we can. Shadowfangs, we need to go as fast as we can before Denethor uses the Palantir." It's so funny. It's so funny. Hannebeck, you would think that, but that's not what the academic community around Tolkien does. No, they are not neutral whatsoever. There is no neutrality in the Tolkien academic community, as far as I'm aware. And I mean, I don't think it depends what kind of academia you're doing, doesn't it? Because if you're talking about like a book, then and your media analysis in general, there just has to be some bias. Like you can't. There's no way in which you can not have bias in I assume in writing Tolkien-based academia, which is actually still crazy that it's a thing that exists. Actually, it's still crazy. I'm very terrified about the possible Harry Potter academic community that will inevitably at some point rise from the ashes. Yeah. Oh, okay. We've gone on 10 minutes. I do know that, Des. I know. I know. You're welcome. I mean, that is the only piece of academic writing about Harry Potter I would read, so... Okay, let's get going. Right. I still have yet to figure out or decide what voice I'm going to be using for Gollum. The likelihood is I'm going to use film Gollum. That's the likelihood. Okay. Ooh, I'm going to remember to take down the break. Woohoo. Chapter 1, by the way. Again, we're at chapter 1. The Taming of Smeagol. Oh, well, now I have to remember how to do a Devonshire accent. The baby eating voice, yes. "Well, master, we're in a fix and no mistake," said Sam Gamgee. He stood despondently, with hunched shoulders beside Frodo, and peered out with puckered eyes into the gloom. It was the third evening since they had fled from the company. As far as they could tell, they had almost lost count of the hours during which they had climbed and laboured among the barren slopes and stones of the Emyn Muil, sometimes retracing their steps because they could find no way forward, sometimes discovering that they had wandered in a circle back to where they had been hours before. Yet on the whole they had worked steadily eastwards, keeping as near as they could find a way to the outer edge of this strange, twisted knot of hills. But always they found its outward faces sheer, high and impassable, frowning over the plain below. Beyond its tumbled skirts lay livid, festering marshes, where nothing moved, and not even a bird was to be seen. we're going to pause briefly and say, Raklos, not many characters in media have eaten babies. It's just not something that happens a lot in media, especially not media that's potentially supposed to be read to children. so I think that fact. I do understand. I mean, I feel the reason why people focus on the baby eating part of Gollum's backstory. It's compelling. It's arresting, you might say, as a fact. You just can't get it out of your mind. So I'm not arguing with you about this. The hobbit stood now on the brink of a tall cliff, bare and bleak, its feet wrapped in mist, and behind them rose the broken highlands, crowned with drifting cloud. It took me a while to figure out what you were talking about. I was like, no wait, like he definitely ate babies. And now I just realized the thing that you're saying is that it's not babies who are reading the book. So why should children who were very recently babies care about the fact that Gollum ate babies? You're making it difficult for me to get to your boy. We need to get to you need to get to your boy. He's not for some pages yet. We've not gotten to him yet. It's gonna take a bit, so we've gotta motor on. Anyway, okay. A chill wind blew from the east. Night was gathering over the shapeless lands before them. The sickly green of them was faded into a sullen brown. Far away to the right, the Anduin that had gleamed fitfully in sunbreaks during the day was now hidden in shadow. But their eyes did not look beyond the river, back to Gondor, to their friends, to the lands of men. South and east they stared to where, at the edge of the oncoming night, a dark line hung. Like distant mountains of motionless smoke. Every now and again, a tiny red gleam far away flickered upwards on the rim of earth and sky. "What effects?" said Sam. "That's the one place in all the lands we've ever heard of that we don't want to see any closer. And that's the one place we're trying to get to. And that's just where we can't get, nohow. We've come the wrong way altogether, seemingly. We can't get down, and if we did get down, we'd find all that green land a nasty bog all warrant. Phew, can you smell it?" He sniffed at the wind. "Yes, I can smell it," said Frodo, but he did not move, and his eyes remained fixed, staring out towards the dark line and the flickering flame. "Mordor," he muttered under his breath. "If I must go there, I wish I could come there quickly and make an end." He shuddered. The wind was chilly and yet heavy with an odour of cold decay. "Well," he said, at last drawing his eyes, "we cannot stay here all night, fix or no fix. We must find a more sheltered spot and camp once more, and perhaps another day will show us a path." "Or another and another and another," muttered Sam. "Or maybe no day. We've come the wrong way." "I wonder," said Frodo. "It's my doom, I think, to go to that shadow yonder, so that a way will be found. But will good or evil show it to me? What hope we had was in speed. Delay plays into the enemy's hands, and here I am, delayed. Is it the will of the Dark Tower that steers us? All my choices have proved ill." Oh, that's a callback to Aragorn. All my choices go ill. It's a Aragorn callback because Aragorn and Frodo are parallel. Sometimes. "I should have left the company long before and moved down from the northeast of the river and of the Emyn and so over the hard battle plain to the passes of Mordor. But now it isn't possible for you and me alone to find a way back, and the orcs are prowling on the east bank. Every day that passes is a precious day lost. I'm tired, Sam. I don't know what is to be done. What food have we got left?" "Only those, what do you call them, lembas, Mr. Frodo. A fair supply, but they are better than naught, by a long bite. I never thought, though, when I first set tooth in them, that I should ever come to wish for a change.
But I do now. A bit of hot plain bread and a mug, aye, half a mug of beer would go down proper. I've lugged my cooking gear all the way from the last camp, and what use has it been? Naught to make a fire with, for a start, and naught to cook, not even grass.
They turned away and went down into a stony hollow. The westering sun was caught into clouds, and night came swiftly. They slept as well as they could for the cold, turn and turn about, in a nook among many jagged pinnacles of weathered rock. At least they were sheltered from the easterly wind. "Did you see them again, Mr. Frodo?" asked Sam, as they sat stiff and chilled, munching wafers of lembas in the cold grey of early morning. "No," said Frodo, "but I've heard nothing and seen nothing for 2 nights now." "Nor me," said Sam. "Grr, those eyes did give me a turn. But perhaps we've shaken them off at last." "No, is that going back into Scots? It really is, damn it."
"Gollum. I'll give him Gollum in his throat, if ever I get my hands on his neck."
"I hope you'll never need to," said Frodo. "I don't know how he followed us, but it may be that he's lost..." Oh? That was interesting. Oh, where's my... do I have a... Hang on. Hang on. There is a bot. What do I do? How do I... Oh, I remember now. I remember now. Hang on. Hang on. Here we go. We got him. Okay. I don't know how he followed us, but it may be that he's lost us again, as you say. In this dry, bleak land we can't leave many footprints, nor even scent, even for his snuffly nose. "Well, I hope that's the way of it," said Sam. "I wish we could be rid of him for... No, that's Scots. I wish we could be rid of him for good." "So do I," said Frodo, "but he's not my chief trouble. I wish we could get away from these hills. I hate them. I feel all naked on the east side, stuck up here with nothing but the dead flats between me and that shadow yonder. There's an eye in it. Come on, we've got to get down today somehow." We have all missed our boys. But that day wore on, and when the afternoon faded towards evening, they were still scrambling along the ridge and had found no way of escape. Sometimes, in the silence of that barren country, they fancied that they had heard faint sounds behind them, a stone falling or the imagined step of flapping feet on the rock. But if they halted and stood still listening, they heard no more, nothing but the wind sighing over the edges of the stones. Yet even that reminded them of breath softly hissing through the sharp teeth. All that day, the outer edge of the Emyn Muil had been bending gradually northward as they struggled on. Along its brinks there now stretched a wide, tumbled flat of scored and weathered rock, cut every now and again by trench-like gullies that sloped steeply down to deep notches in the cliff face. To find a path in these steep clefts, which were becoming deeper and more frequent, Frodo and Sam were driven to their left, well away from the edge, and they did not notice that for several miles they had been going slowly but steadily downhill. The cliff top was sinking towards the level of the lowlands. At last they were brought to a halt. A ridge took a sharper bend northward, and was gashed by a deeper ravine. On the further side it reared up again, many fathoms at a single leap. A great stony cliff loomed before them, cut sheer down as if by a knife stroke. They could go no further forwards, and must turn now either west or east, but west would lead them only into more labour and delay, back towards the heart of the hills. East would take them to the outer precipice. "There's nothing for it but to scramble down this There's nothing for it but to scramble down this gully, Sam," said Frodo. "Let's see what it leads to." "Nasty drop, I'll bet," said Sam. The cliff was longer and deeper than it seemed. Some way down they found a few gnarled and stunted trees. The first they had seen for days, twisted birch for the most part, with here and there a fir tree. Many were dead and gaunt, bitten to the core by the eastern winds. Once in milder days there must have been a fair thicket in the ravine. But now, after some 50 yards, the trees came to an end, though old broken stumps straggled on almost to the cliff's brink. The bottom of the gully, which lay along the edge of the rock fault, was rough with broken stone, and slanted steeply down. When they came at last to the end of it, Frodo stooped and leaned out. "Look," he said. "We must have come down a long way, or else the cliff has sunk. It's much lower here than it was, and it looks easier too." Sam knelt beside him and peered reluctantly over the edge. Then he glanced up at the great cliff rising up away from their left, away on their left. "Easier?" he grunted. "Well, I suppose it's easier getting down than up. Those as can't fly can jump."
"It would be a big jump still," said Frodo. Well, he stood for a moment measuring with his eyes. "About 18 fathoms, I should guess, not more."
"And that's enough," said Sam. How do I hate looking down from a height. But looking's better than climbing."
"All the same," said Frodo, "I think we could climb here, and I think we shall have to try. See, the rock is quite different from what it was a few miles back. It has slipped and cracked."
The outer fall was indeed no longer sheer, but sloped outwards a little, and looked like a great rampart or sea-wall whose foundations had shifted, so that its courses were all twisted and disordered, leaving great fissures and long slanting edges that were in places almost as wide as stairs. "And if we're going to try and get down, we had better try at once. It's getting dark early. I think there's a storm coming." The smoky blur of the mountains of the east was lost in a deeper blackness that was already reaching out westwards and with long arms. There was a distant mutter of thunder borne on the rising breeze. Frodo sniffed the air and looked up doubtfully at the sky. He strapped his belt outside his cloak and tightened it, and settled his light pack on his back. Then he stepped towards the edge. "I'm going to try it," he said. "Very good," said Sam gloomily, "but I'm going first."
"You?" said Frodo. "What made you change your mind about climbing?"
"I haven't changed my mind, but it's only sense. Put the one lowest as is most likely to slip. I don't want to come down atop you and knock you off. No sense in killing two with one fall."
Before Frodo could stop him, he sat down, swung his legs over the brink, and twisted round, scrambling with his toes for a foothold. It is doubtful if he ever did anything braver in cold blood, or more unwise.
No, Sam, you old arse," said Frodo. "You'll kill yourself for certain, going over like that without even a look to see what to make of it. Come back." He took Sam under the armpits and hauled him up again. "Now, wait a bit and be patient," he said. Then he lay on the ground, leaning out and looking down, but the light seemed to be fading quickly, although the sun had not yet set. "I think we could manage this," he said presently. "I could at any rate, and you could too if you kept your head and followed me carefully." "Don't know how you can be so sure," said Sam. "Why, you can't see to the bottom in this light. What if it comes to a place where there's nowhere to put your feet or your hands?" "Climb back, I suppose," said Frodo. "Easy said," objected Sam. "Better wait till morning and more light." "No, not if I can help it," said Frodo, with a sudden strange vehemence. "I grudge every hour, every minute. I'm going down to try it out. Don't you follow me till I come back or call." Gripping the stony lip of the fall with his fingers, he let himself gently down until when his arms were almost at full stretch, his toes found a ledge. "One step down," he said, "and this ledge broadens out to the right. I could stand there without a hold. His words were cut short. The hurrying darkness, now gathering great speed, rushed up from the east and swallowed the sky. There was a dry, splitting crack of thunder right overhead. Searing lightning smote down onto the mountains. Then came a blast of savage wind, and with it, mingled in its roar, there came a high, shrill shriek. The hobbits had heard just such a cry far away in the Marish as they fled from Hobbiton, and even there in the woods of the Shire it had frozen their blood. Out here in the waste its terror was far greater. It pierced them with cold blades of horror and despair, stopping heart and breath. Sam fell flat on his face. Involuntarily, Frodo loosed his hold and put his hands over his ears and head. He swayed, slipped, and slithered downwards with a wailing cry. Sam heard him and crawled with an effort to the edge. "Master! Master!" he called. He heard no answer. He found he was shaking all over, but he gathered his breath and once again shouted, "Master! Wait, I was going to change something. I forgot. Sorry. We're taking it back." Sam heard him and crawled with an effort to the edge. "Frodo! Frodo!" he called. He heard no answer. He found he was shaking all over, but he gathered his breath and once again he shouted, "Bleh. Frodo!" The wind seemed to blow his voice back into his throat, but as it passed, roaring up the gully away over the hills, a faint answering cry came to his ears. All right, I'm here, but I can't see. Frodo was calling with a weak voice. He was not actually very far away. He had slid and not fallen, and had come up with a jolt to his feet on a wider ledge not many yards lower down. Fortunately, the rock face at this point leaned well back, and the wind had pressed him against the cliff, so that he had not toppled over. He steadied himself a little, laying his face against the cold stone, feeling his heart pounding. But either the darkness had grown complete, or else his eyes had lost their sight. All was black about him. He wondered if he had been struck blind, and he took a deep breath. Oh yes, we passed in. Merry Christmas to everyone, everyone who celebrates it. We're all the way over into the good Christmas times. Yes, I forgot to say, for this read through, I'm just not gonna have Sam say Master or Mister. He's just gonna say Frodo from now on, simply because it's nicer to read that. It's nicer to read that, and it makes more sense in the time. It feels better. Come back, he heard Sam's voice out of the blackness above. I can't, he said. I can't see, I can't find any hold, I can't move yet. What can you do, Mr. Frodo? What can you do, Frodo? What can I do? Shouted Sam, leaning out dangerously far. Why could not his master see? It was dim, certainly, but not as dark as all that. He could see Frodo below him, a grey forlorn figure splayed against the cliff, but he was far out of reach of any helping hand. There was another crack of thunder, and then the rain came, in a blinding sheet mingled with hail. It drove against the cliff, bitter cold. I'm coming down to you, shouted Sam, though how he hoped to help in that way he could not have said. No, wait, Frodo called back, more strongly now. I shall be better soon. I feel better already. Wait, you can't do anything without a rope. Rope! Cried Sam, talking wildly to himself in his excitement and relief. Well, if I don't deserve to be hung on the end of one as worn into numbskulls, you're nowt but a ninny hammer, Sam Gamgee. That's what Gaffer said to me often enough, it being a word of his. Rope! Stop chattering, cried Frodo, now recovered enough to feel both amused and annoyed. Never mind your Gaffer. Are you trying to tell yourself you've got some rope in your pocket? If so, out with it. Yes, Frodo, in my pack and all. Carried it hundreds of miles, and I'd clean forgotten it. Then get busy and let it down. Quickly, Sam unslung his pack and rummaged in it. There indeed, at the bottom, was a coil of the silken grey rope made by the folk of Lorien. He cast an end to his master. To Frodo. The darkness seemed to lift from Frodo's eyes, or else his sight was returning. He could see the grey lime as it came dangling down, and he thought it had a faint silver sheen. Now that he had some point in the darkness to fix his eyes on, he felt less giddy. Leaning his weight forward, he made the end fast round his waist, and then he grasped the line with both hands. Sam stepped back and braced his feet against a stump, a yard or two from the edge. Half hauled, half scrambling, Frodo came up and threw himself on the ground. Thunder growled and rumbled in the distance, and the rain was still falling heavily. The hobbits crawled away back into the gully, but they did not find much shelter there. Rills of water began to run down. Soon they grew to a spate that splashed and fumed on the stones, and spouted out over the cliff like the gutters of a vast roof. I should have been drowned down there, or washed clean off, said Frodo. What a piece of luck you had that rope. Better luck than I thought of it. Better luck that I thought of it sooner, said Sam. Maybe you maybe you remember them putting the rope in the boats as we started off in the Elvish country. I took a fancy to it, and I stowed a coil in my pack. Years ago, it seems. It may be helping many needs, he said. Haldir, or one of those folk. And he spoke right. A pity I didn't think of bringing another length, said Frodo. But I left the company in such a hurry and confusion. If only we had enough to use it to get down. How long is your rope, I wonder? Sam paid it out slowly, measuring it with his arms. 5, 10, 20, 30 ells, more or less. Who'd have thought it? Frodo exclaimed. Ah, who would? Said Sam. Elves are wonderful folk. It looks a bit thin, but it's tough, and soft as milk to the hand. Packs close too, and as light as light. Wonderful folks, to be sure. 30 ells, said Frodo, considering. I believe it will be enough, if the storm passes before midnight. I'm going to try it. The rain's nearly given over already, said Sam. But don't you go doing anything risky in the dim again, Frodo. And I haven't got over that shriek on the wind yet if you have. Like a black rider it sounded, but we're up in the air, if they can fly. I'm thinking we'd best lay up in this crack till night's over. And I'm thinking that I won't spend a moment longer than I need stuck up on this ledge with the eyes of the dark country looking over the marshes, said Frodo. With that, he stood up and went to the bottom of the gully again. He looked out. Clear sky was growing in the east once more. The skirts of the storm were lifting, ragged and wet, and the main battle had passed to spread its great wings over the Emyn Wheel, upon which the dark thought of Sauron brooded for a while. Thence it turned, smiting the vale of Anduin with hail and lightning, and casting its shadow upon Minas Tirith with threat of war. Then, lowering in the mountains and gathering its great spires, it rolled on slowly over Gondor and the skirts of Rohan, until far away the riders on the plain saw its black towers moving behind the sun, as they rode into the west. But here, over the desert and the reeking marshes, the deep blue sky of evening opened once more, and a few pallid stars appeared, like small white holes in the canopy above the crescent moon. Oh, excuse me.
So this is interesting. I hadn't realized this before. What they're saying, what this seems to be saying is that where Sauron's eye goes, there's just kind of a storm coming with it. Yeah, like let's brood about this marsh. It's very funny. Well, the reason he's brooding at the moment is because he's looking everywhere and he's very annoyed because he wants to find this fucking hobbit. And he's a little bit irritated. It must be, this must. Wait, I can't remember now actually. When does this? So it's 3 days. Oh, okay. So it's 3 days after they've left the company. So we've gone back in time. At this point, the riders are riding west. Yes. the riders are riding west. So that's Éomer, I imagine, and Frodo and Sam are 3 days out, and we haven't even gotten to Edoras yet. Like I think so 2 days, so they're nearly at Edoras. Aragorn and Gimli and Legolas are kind of coming to that time, but they're not yet there. So we've jumped quite far back in time at this point. So Sauron at this point is thinking about yes, so at this point Sauron is trying to figure out where the ring is and where this goddamn hobbit is. And Saruman is on the case, he knows, but he doesn't necessarily trust that Saruman's gonna deal with this. So he's brooding about where the hobbit is, I guess, is the point. Trying to find this goddamn little creature. Ugh. But it's kind of funny. I like the idea that Sauron's gaze, if he's looking at you, it just starts raining. just kind of starts raining. And is that why, do you think, why Frodo was blind briefly? Because Sauron's eye was looking at him, and he was blinded by it. I don't know if that's the case. We'll keep reading and see if it happens again, because I mean, it's not like he doesn't often get caught by the Eye of Sauron after this. Oh, and he's just talking about it now. It's good to be able to see again, said Frodo, breathing deep. Do you know, I thought for a bit that I'd lost my sight. From the lightning or something else worse. I could see nothing at all, until the grey rope came down. It seemed to shimmer somehow. It does look sort of silver in the dark, said Sam. Never noticed it before, though I can't remember as I've ever heard it out since had it out since first I stowed it. But if you're so set on climbing, Mr. Frodo, how are you going to use it? 30 ells, or say, about 18 fathom. There's no more than your guess at the height of the cliff. Frodo thought for a while. Make it fast to that stump, Sam, he said. Then I think you shall have your wish this time and go first. I'll lower you, and you need do no more than use your feet and hands to fend yourself off from the rock. Though if you put your weight on some of the ledges and give me a rest, it will help. When you're down, I'll follow. I feel quite myself again now."
"Very well," said Sam heavily. "If it must be, let's get it over."
He took up the rope and made it fast over the stump nearest the brink. Then the other end he tied about his own waist. Reluctantly he returned and prepared to go over this edge a second time. It did not, however, turn out half as bad as he had expected. The rope seemed to give him confidence, though he shut his eyes more than once when he looked over down between his feet. There was one awkward spot where there was no ledge and the wall was sheer, and even undercut for a short space, where he slipped and swung out on the silver line. But Frodo lowered him slowly and steadily, and it was over at last. His chief fear had been that the rope length would give out while he was still high up, but there was still a good bite in Frodo's hand when Sam came to the bottom and called up. "I'm down!" His voice came up clearly from below, but Frodo could not see him. His grey elven cloak had melded him into the twilight. Frodo took rather more time to follow. He had the rope about his waist, and it was fast above, and he had shortened it so that it would pull him up before he reached the ground. Still, he did not want to risk a fall, and he had not quite Sam's faith in his slender grey line. He found two places, all the same, where he had to trust wholly to it, smooth surfaces where there was no hold even for his strong hobbit fingers, and the ledges were far apart. But at last he too was down. "Well," he cried, "we've done it! We've escaped from the Emyn Muil, and now what next, I wonder? Well, we shall soon be sighing for a good hard rock underfoot again. Oh wait, sorry. Maybe we shall soon be sighing for good hard rock underfoot again." But Sam did not answer. He was staring back up the cliff. "Ninny hammers," he said. "Noodles, my beautiful rope. There it is, tied to a stump, and we're at the bottom. But as nice as a little stair for that slinking golem as we could leave. Better put up a signpost to say which way we've gone. I thought it seemed a bit too easy." If you can think of any way we could have both used the rope and yet brought it down with us, then you can pass on to me Ninnyhammer, or any other name your gaffer gave you," said Frodo. "Climb up and untie it, and let yourself down if you want to." Sam scratched his head. "No, I can't think how, begging your pardon," he said. "But I don't like leaving it, and that's a fact." He stroked the rope's end and shook it gently. "It goes hard parting with anything I've brought out of the elf country. Made by Galadriel herself, too, maybe." "Galadriel," he murmured, nodding his head mournfully. He looked up and gave one last pull to the rope, as if in farewell. To the complete surprise of both hobbits, it came loose. Sam fell over, and the long grey coils slithered silently down the top of him. Frodo laughed. "Who tied the rope?" he said. "Good thing it held as long as it did. To think that I trusted all my weight to your knot." Sam did not laugh. "I may not be much good at climbing, Mr. Frodo," he said in injured tones, "but I do know something about ropes and about knots. It's in the family, as you might say. Why, my grandad and his Uncle Andy after him that was the gaffer's eldest brother, he had a rope walk over by Tyfield many a year, and I put as fast a hitch up over that stump as any could have done, in the Shire or out of it." "Oh, then the rope must have broken, frayed on the rock edge, I expect," said Frodo. "I bet it didn't," said Sam, in an even more injured voice. He stooped and examined the ends. "Nor it hasn't neither, not a strand." "Then I'm afraid it must have been the knot," said Frodo. Sam shook his head and did not answer. He was passing the rope through his fingers thoughtfully. "Have it your own way, Frodo," he said at last, "but I think the rope came off itself when I called." He caught it up and stowed it lovingly in his pack. "It certainly came," said Frodo, "and that's the chief thing. But now we've got to think about our next move. Night will soon be on us. How beautiful the stars are. Oh, and the moon." "They do cheer the heart, don't they?" said Sam, looking up. "Elvish they are somehow. And the moon's growing. We haven't seen him for a night or two in this cloudy winter. He's beginning to give light." "Yes," said Frodo, "but he won't be full for some days. I don't think we'll try the marshes by the light of half a moon." I know it's so rude of him to insinuate that Sam cannot tie knots. It's absolutely indefensible of Frodo to be so callous. The fact that Sam says noodles as a curse is very funny. Do we have noodles? Now, are noodles... Now, this is a question, actually. Are noodles, did we apply the term noodles to, like, Japanese noodles, or were they always, or was it before? I can't even think. Well, I mean, no, I mean, Sam did tug it. He did tug on it, and that is why it came free. So that, I have to say, actually, probably that scene between Frodo and Sam and the rope is probably one of the most, like, book accurate. Sam is Italian. I've been doing his accent wrong this entire time. I won't try an Italian accent. Okay. We'll go on for a little bit longer, but I'm flagging, and I'm so sorry, Raklos. We might not get to your boy tonight. It's plausible we won't get to your boy tonight. We will at least have him introduced, if not actually have him speak in this section. Under the first shadows of night, they started out on the next stage of their journey. After a while, Sam turned and looked back at the way they had come. The mouth of the gully was a black notch in the dim cliff. "I'm glad we've got that rope," he said. "We've set a little puzzle for that footpad, anyhow. He can try his nasty flapping feet on those ledges." They picked their steps away from the skirts of the cliff, among a wilderness of boulders and rough stones, wet and slippery with the heavy rain. The ground still fell away sharply. They had not gone very far when they came upon a great fissure that yawned suddenly black before their feet. It was not wide, but it was too wide to jump across in the dim light. They thought they could hear water gurgling in its depths. It curved away on their left northward, back towards the hills, and so barred their road in that direction. At any rate, while darkness lasted. "We had better try our way back southwards along the line of the cliff, I think," said Sam. "We might find some nook there, or even a cave or something." "I suppose so," said Frodo. "I'm tired, and I don't think I can scramble among these stones much longer tonight. Though I grudge the delay, I wish there was a clear path in front of us. Then I'd go on till my legs gave way." They did not find the going any easier at the broken feet of the Emyn Muil, nor did Sam find any nook or hollow to shelter in. Only bare, stony slopes frowned over the cliff, which now rose again, higher and more sheer as they went back. In the end, worn out, they just cast themselves on the ground under the lee of a boulder lying not far from the foot of the precipice. There, for some time, they huddled mournfully together in the cold, snowy night. Hello. Welcome in, Hex Quantum, and also, apparently Noodle is from the German Nuddle of unknown origin. Well, that's... I didn't... I didn't know. I didn't know that Noodle had such a what's the word? A convoluted past. Unknown origin. It's quite funny. I am sorry, Raggloss. I am sorry. You don't have to say it's fine. I know it's disappointing. There for some time they sat huddled mournfully together in the cold stony night, while sleep crept upon them in spite of all they could do to hold it off. The moon now rode high and clear. Its thin white light lit up the faces of the rocks and drenched the cold, frowning walls of the cliff, turning all the wide looming darkness into a chill, pale grey scored with black shadows. "Well," said Frodo, standing up and drawing his cloak more closely around him, "you sleep for a bit, Sam, and take my blanket. I'll walk up and down on sentry for a while." Suddenly he stiffened, and stooping, he gripped Sam by the arm. "What's that?" he whispered. "Look over there, on the cliff." Sam looked, and breathed in sharply through his teeth. He said, "That's what it is. It's that golem. Snakes and adders, and to think that I thought we'd puzzle him with our bit of climb. Look at him, like a nasty crawling spider on a wall." Down the face of a precipice, sheer and almost smooth it seemed in the pale moonlight, a small black shape was moving with its thin limbs splayed out. Maybe its soft, clinging hands and toes were finding crevices and holes that no hobbit could ever have seen or used, but it looked as if it was just creeping down on sticky pads, like some large prowling thing of insect kind. And it was coming down head first, as if it was smelling its way. Now and again it lifted its head slowly, turning it right back on its long, skinny neck, and the hobbits caught a glimpse of two small, pale, gleaming lights. Its eyes that blinked in the moon for a moment and then were quickly lidded again.
"Do you think he can see us?" said Sam.
"I don't know," said Frodo quietly, "but I think not. It is hard even for friendly eyes to see these elven cloaks. I cannot see you in the shadow even at the few paces, and I've heard that he doesn't like sun or moon."
"Then why is he coming down just here?" asked Sam.
"Quietly, Sam," said Frodo.
"He can smell us, perhaps, and he can hear as keen as elves, I believe. I think he heard something now, our voices probably. We did a lot of shouting away back there, and we were talking far too loudly until a minute ago."
"Well, I'm sick of him," said Sam. "He'll come once too often for me, and I'm going to have a word with him, if I can. I don't suppose we could give him the slip now anyway." Drawing his grey hood well over his face, Sam crept stealthily towards the cliff.
"Careful," whispered Frodo, coming from behind. "Don't alarm him. He's much more dangerous than he looks."
I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Gollum is probably the most terrifying creature that has ever been created in this whole situation. Like, it's absolutely terrifying. It's like Bram Stoker's Dracula fucking scuttling his way down the tower. Like, it's a horrifying image, and especially the idea that it's like that he's like he's got soft sticky pads, which goes right towards my specific image of Gollum as like a gecko type creature. I desperately want him to lick his own eyeball. I just think it's right that Gollum should be able to lick his own eyeball. Yes. The black crawling shape was now 3/4 of the way down, and perhaps 50 feet or less from the cliff's foot. Crouching stone still in the shadow of a large boulder, the hobbits watched him. He seemed to have come to a difficult passage, or to be troubled about something. They could hear him snuffling, and now and again there was a harsh hiss of breath that sounded like a curse. He lifted his head, and they thought they heard him spit. Then he moved on again. Now they could hear his voice creaking and whistling. "Oh, you do get something. You do get some stuff, Ratglass. I didn't realize he was this close."
"Cautious, my precious. Make haste, less speed. We mustn't risk our necks, must we, precious? No, precious Gollum."
He lifted his head again, blinked at the moon, and quickly shut his eyes.
"We hates it," he hissed. "Nasty, nasty, silvery light it is. It sighs on us, precious. It hurts our eyes."
He was getting lower now, and the hisses became sharper and clearer.
"Where is it? Where is it, my precious? My precious, it's ours, it is, and we want it. The thieves, the filthy little thieves. Where are they with my precious? Curse them, we hate them."
"Doesn't sound as if he knew we were here, does it?" whispered Sam. "And what's his precious? Does he mean that—"
"Shh!"
breathed Frodo.
"He's getting near now, near enough to hear a whisper."
Indeed, Gollum had suddenly paused again, and his large head on its scrawny neck was lolling from side to side as if he was listening. Oh, that's a terrible image. His pale eyes were half unlidded. Sam restrained himself, though his fingers were twitching. His eyes, filled with anger and disgust, were fixed on the wretched creature as he now began to move again, still whispering and hissing to himself. At last, he was no more than a dozen feet from the ground, right above their heads. From that point, there was a sheer drop, for the cliff was slightly undercut, and even Gollum could not find a hold of any kind. He seemed to be trying to twist round, so as to go legs first, and then suddenly, with a shrill whistling shriek, he fell. As he did so, he curled his legs and arms up around him, like a spider whose descending thread has snapped. Oh my god. Sam was out of his hiding in a flash, and crossed the space between him and the cliff foot in a couple of leaps. Before Gollum could get up, he was on top of him. But he found Gollum more than he bargained for, even taken like that, suddenly off his guard after a fall. Before Sam could get a hold, long legs and arms were wound round him, pinning his arms in a clinging grip, soft but horribly strong, was squeezing him like slowly tightening cords. Clammy fingers were feeling for his throat. Then sharp teeth bit into his shoulder, and all he could do was butt his hard, round head sideways into the creature's face. Gollum hissed and spat, but he did not let go. Things would have gone ill with Sam if he had been alone, but Frodo sprang up and drew Sting from its sheath. With his left hand he drew back Gollum's head by its thin, lanky hair, stretching its long neck and forcing his pale, venomous eyes to stare up at the sky.
Let go!
Let go, Gollum, he said. This is Sting. You have seen it before once upon a time. Let go, or you'll feel it this time. I'll cut your throat. Gollum collapsed and went as loose as wet string. Oh, that's also a horrible image! Ugh. As loose as wet string? Ugh. He is still slimy. He's still slimy and green. I'm making a call. His eyes smouldered with anger, but he could not avenge himself. His miserable enemy lay grovelling on the stones, whimpering.
Don't hurt us! Don't let them hurt us, precious! They won't hurt us, will they? Nice little hobbitses. We didn't mean no harm, but they jumped on us like cats on poor mices. They did, precious. And we're so lonely. Oh. We'll be nice to them. Very nice. If they would be nice to us, won't we? Yes. Yes.
Well, what's to be done with it? Said Sam. Tie it up so as it can't come sneaking after us no more, I say.
But that would kill us, whimpered Gollum. Cruel little hobbits, tie us up in the cold, hard lands and leave us.
Gollum! Gollum! Sobs welled up in his gobbling throat. No, said Frodo. If we kill him, we must kill him outright. But we can't do that, not as things are. Poor wretch, he has done us no harm. Oh, hasn't he? Said Sam, rubbing his shoulder. Oh, really? No harm is done. Really? Is that true? He's done us no harm, has he? Frodo? I'm bleeding. Got tetanus. Anyway, he meant to, and he means to, I'll warrant. Throttle us in our sleep, that's his plan. I dare say, said Frodo. But what he means to do is another matter. He paused for a while in thought. Gollum lay still, but stopped whimpering. Sam stood glowering over him. It seemed to Frodo then that he heard, quite plainly but far off, voices out of the past. What a pity Bilbo did not stab the vile creature when he had a chance. Pity? It was pity that stayed his hand. Pity and mercy, not to strike without need. I do not feel any pity for Gollum. He deserves death. Deserves death? I dare say he does. Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them? And be not too eager to deal out death in the name of justice, fearing for your own safety. Even the wise cannot see all ends. Again, this is a point. He's a known baby murderer and eater. A known baby murderer and eater, like he definitely has done harm. Harm has been done by this creature. Very well, he answered aloud, lowering his sword. But still I am afraid, and yet, as you see, I will not touch the creature, for now that I see him, I do pity him. Sam stared at Frodo, who seemed to be speaking to someone who was not there. Gollum lifted his head.
Yes, wretched we are, precious, he whined. Misery, misery. Hobbits won't kill us. Nice hobbits.
No, we won't, said Frodo. But we won't let you go either. You're full of wickedness and mischief, Gollum. You will have to come with us, that's all, while we keep an eye on you. But you must help us if you can. One good turn deserves another.
Yes, yes, indeed,
said Gollum, sitting up.
Nice hobbits. We will come with them. Find them safe paths in the dark, yes, we will. And there And where are they going? These cold, hard lands. We wonders. Yes, we wonders.
He looked up at them, and a faint light of cunning and eagerness flickered for a second in his pale, blinking eyes. Sam scowled at him and sucked his teeth, but he seemed to sense that there was something odd about Frodo's mood, and that the matter was beyond argument. All the same, he was amazed at Frodo's reply. Frodo looked straight into Gollum's eyes, which flinched and twisted away. "You know that, or you guess well enough, Smeagol," he said, quietly and sternly. "We're going to Mordor, of course, and you know the way there, I believe." said Gollum, covering his ears with his hands as if such frankness and the open speaking of the names hurt him.
Yes, we guessed, he whispered. We didn't want them to go to Three, no, precious. Not the nice hobbits. Ashes and dust and thirst there is there, and pits and orcs, thousands of orcs. Nice hobbits mustn't go there to those places.
"So you have been there?" Frodo insisted. "And you're being drawn back there, aren't you?"
Yes. No!
shrieked Gollum.
Once, by accident it was, wasn't it, precious? Yes, by accident. But we won't go back there, no.
Then his voice was sudden and language changed, and he sobbed in his throat and spoke, but not to them. "Leave me alone, Gollum. You hurt me. Oh, my poor hands, Gollum. I don't want to come back. I can't find it. I am tired." Wait. Oh, damn it. How am I... Fuck. Oh, Jamie! Did you leave? Oh, no. I'm so sorry. Will you return to hear me wrestle with Gollum's voice? How am I going to do Smeagol's voice? What is this? So, Gollum hisses, and Smeagol doesn't, apparently. There's no hissing in Smeagol. His voice and language changed, and he sobbed in his throat and spoke, but not to them. How am I gonna do... Leave me alone, Gollum. You hurt me. Oh, my poor hands, Gollum. I don't want to come back. I can't find it. I'm tired. We can't find it. Gollum. No, nowhere. There's always a way to orcs, men, and elves, terrible elves with bright eyes. I can't find it. He got up and clenched his long hand into a bony, fleshless knot, shaking it towards the east. "We won't," he cried. "Not for you." Then he collapsed again. Gollum. He whimpered with his face to the ground. "Don't look at us. Look away. Go to sleep." "He will not go away, or go to sleep at your command, Smeagol," said Frodo. "But if you really wish to be free of him again, then you must help me, and that, I fear, means finding us a path towards him. But you need not go all the way, not beyond the gates of this land." Gollum sat up again and looked at him under his eyelids. "He's over there," he cackled. "Always there. Orcs will take you all the way. Easy to find orcs east of the river. Don't ask Smeagol, poor Smeagol. He went away long ago. They took his precious and he's lost now." "Perhaps we'll find him again if you come with us," said Frodo. No, never. He lost his precious," said Gollum. "Get up," said Frodo. Gollum stood up and backed away against the cliff. "Now," said Frodo, "can you find a path easier by night or by day? We're tired, but if you choose the night, we'll start tonight." Can you find a path easier by day or by night? Yeah, okay. "The big lights hurts our eyes, they do," Gollum whined. "Not under the white face, not yet. It will go behind the hills soon, yes. Rest a bit first. Nice hobbits." "Then sit down," said Frodo, "and don't move."
I think Gollum's tongue should be white. I think we're gonna stop there. We'll stop there. Ugh. Oh, blue. Oh, you're right. Sorry, Honeybee. You're absolutely correct. They should be dark blue, like a skink, like a skink. Oh, it's nice to get back into my good old book. It's so lovely to get back to our good old Sam and Frodo. Ugh. He was tortured, but he didn't. Okay, we're gonna we're going to litigate whether or not Gollum is pitiful. I think pitiful is certainly the right word for him. He's certainly pitiful because he's in this horrific situation, and it is so very like, despite the fact that this is almost entirely his fault, the fact that he is in just the most wretched position is very true. Yes, of course he is. So yes, I think he is. He certainly, I can certainly pity him. Not in the sense of like, I would let him live. Not in the sense that I would let him live. I wouldn't like. Yeah, I mean that's it basically. I don't. Oh, thank you so much, everybody. That's very kind of you. I'm also very happy to be back, and I'm very fond of all of you. And I'm finally, I think, getting somewhat back on track. One hopes, but we'll get back to our. And actually, this was good. This was good. This was good because I think we've basically just gotten we've gotten to the end of the MM wheel. So we've used up all the space of time where we don't have a walking video. So we can go back. We can go on to our to the Dead Marshes walking video that I do have. No, why? 250 words, it's all it took you? That's all it took you? It only took you 250 words to get there? Oh. Oh dear. Well, I do hope you feel better. But yeah, certainly he's pitiable. You can. It is certainly you're allowed to pity him, but you did love in medias res. Okay, all right then. Okay, well, I mean, good. Yeah, no, it's yes, that's true. Yeah, you tagged that wrong. But yeah, it's like it's up to you whether you want to pity Gollum or not. I do like him. I like his existence. He's very scary, and I really like the fact that he's so scary, but also so like, almost he doesn't mean to be scary. He kind of means to be scary, but it's not really in his head. He's just very, I just like him. I do like him. My throat is already sore from doing the hisses and the golems, so we'll see how that goes. Maybe he might be. Maybe I will get a brief experience of a worse experience of what it was like, for Andy Serkis. Maybe I'll have to make my own blend of honey lemon tea for the whole rest of the half of this book we have to get through. But yeah, that was fun. Ooh. Let's see it. Let's see this. To hell with the stream quality. Let me see this. I will try and take care of my throat. Thank you, Raklos. That's very kind of you to say. I will try and take care of my throat.
Let's see. Eventually this will load. Eventually. You're probably all... I'm probably buffering now. Most likely I'm buffering horribly, but I want to see this very badly. Come on. Come on. Oh, it's already good. Oh, it's so good! Oh, it's so good! It's so good! It's so good! I was not disappointed. It's so good. Oh, I love it so much. I love it so much. You don't understand. I love it so much. He's this little creepy little man. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. It's so good. Hex Quantum, it's so good, my dude. It's so good. I want to like hang on. Let me see if I can. Hang on. I'm gonna just before we end this the stream, I'm gonna show everybody this because it's so good. Where is it? You want to kiss him? Where is it? Where did we put it? Here we go. There it is. Look at how good that is. It's so good. It's so good. Oh, that's a great way to end this stream. That's a great way to end this stream. I love it so much. Anyway, yes. Okay. Thank you so much for everyone who came. Absolutely delighted that we could all get this started. For once again for everybody, and we could come together and I'm very glad. It sounds like there's been a few people who are gonna kind of be a bit lonely on Christmas Eve, and that's miserable, and I'm so sorry about that. So I'm glad that we all had a fun time, and we could all enjoy Golem together. That's wow! My God, you're right, Honeybee. We all did skip over that a lot, huh? That's very true. They should have had a conversation about that. They definitely should have had a conversation about that very much. Damn, you're right. That would be a great conversation. Ugh, that would be such a good conversation. Oh, I'm just thinking about it, and just the amusement that I'm having of the idea of Pippin like casually mentioning the casually mentioning the fact that he looked into the Palantir and like stared directly into Sauron's eye, and Denethor going like, what? I'm sorry. Does he? Oh, I'm so glad Des is here. Yes, please tell me. Oh, you're right. Yes, he does. He does. He does. You're right. And then they must. And so he didn't actually necessarily have to have a conversation. They didn't necessarily have to have a conversation because then it's like, yep, got that. But I want them to. I want them to have had a conversation. That's sweet. It's a sweet idea. Yeah, they do. Like it's about 5 days that they're in, because takes about 2 days. They should have, yes, talking was a carrot. It takes about 2 days for Faramir to do his whole Osgiliath stuff, doesn't it? And then they're in there for a while, yeah. They did, it's just he didn't write down exactly. That happens a lot with Tolkien. It says Tolkien. There are things that happen in Tolkien's books that he just doesn't write down, but we all know it. They happen anyway. All right. I think at that great note, and with this wonderful image of Gollum
still very enamored with. We shall, especially with the green slime, very good. We shall bring this to an end. And I will thank you all again very, very much for attending. And I also had a great time, as I always do. And the VOD will be up pretty soon after this. I'll get onto it and I'll throw it up. But yeah, in general, a very happy Christmas to everybody who celebrates it, and I hope also a happy solstice to everybody else, me included. and well, I hope the solstice is as good as anyone can expect it to be for everybody. Yeah, won't mention plague. But yeah, I'll wait for a minute because there's a little bit of lag on the stream versus me. Wait just a brief second, but I think basically that's the end. Yes, good night everybody. Might be good if somebody tells me when I said the end. What a threat. What a threat from Hannah back there. Oh dear. It was a threat, yes. It was a threat. Terrifying. And constant. Oh, I will try to get back to my usual. I won't say this, we'll say. Oh, thank you.